Hello, everybody, and welcome to One Life Coaching and Wellness. I am Coach Lori, and I'm here with Melissa. I'm so excited to have you here, Melissa. We're going to be talking a lot about different things today, but I really wanted to, first of all, kind of say how I know Melissa and where we kind of met. And I know she's going to talk about it a little bit, but it was probably about, 8 years ago. I was working in Pueblo at Commit and Conquer, and she did the WOW program with me. And she's one of those people that kind of stuck out. She always did a little bit more, always pushed herself hard every time she was in there. She always complained, which is something that Melissa is very known for. And it's awesome because I think it's funny. I'm like, if you're going to complain and you're still going to do it, you're good in my book. But we met then. You've always pushed yourself really far. I've always enjoyed being around you. Your humor, you have that dry sense of humor, kind of like me. It's a very dangerous combination to put us together. But it was so enjoyable to get to know you. So let's talk a little bit about you, girls. So let's talk about yourself, your background, your family, all that good stuff, so people get to know you.
Okay, so I'm born and raised from Pueblo. Obviously, that's where we met. I I am a complainer. I definitely have that in my corner. And when I met you about 8 years ago at Commit and Conquer, that was kind of like my coping mechanism
Yeah.
to get through the workout. I knew that if I could at least complain about it, then I would feel better getting through it. So that was kind of my kickstart into getting to know you and getting to know what I needed to do to kind of get myself healthy and on the right track. So, but I do have two boys. I'm a boy mom, as some people say. So they keep me on my toes. They keep me busy. We like to go out and kind of hike and bike and get out and be outdoors the best we can. Right now, since it's so cold, we're kind of kicking back a little bit on that, but we do try and get outdoors and just kind of enjoy life a little bit.
Yay. And how are sports going with kids? I know it's kind of crazy right now. Are they getting their sports in, or?
We just ended the baseball season a couple of months ago, so we haven't jumped into any other sports, but that's typically my day in and day out is sports mom. I'm at the field, I'm in the stands cheering, I'm running in between practices, so that's kind of my normal, my day to day.
Yeah, and then you have a job on top of that, full-time job, right? Don't
I
forget.
do.
Yes, so you work full-time, and you're raising two boys. You have a husband, taking care of the house, doing a lot of things, right? You
Right.
are what some people would call super mom, right? You can, and I think that's true. A mom that can actually, can work 40 plus hours a week, come home, take care of the family. Of course, the hubby's there to help too, but definitely, I would put you in that category of super mom, and being able to shuffle all of that is very, very, very difficult. So awesome. Okay, so let's talk about who you are then. One thing that I noticed, and I know you say that that you're gonna talk a little bit more about it, but something that I have noticed about you is you very much are a very driven person. You are a very goal-oriented person, and that is something that like amazes me, and is something that I wish I could be, have a little bit more of those skills. So let's talk about you then. Talk about who you are.
So I very much am a motivated person. So if there's a goal or there's a challenge involved in something, I'm like right there. I'm first in line. I'm ready to take that on. And that's pretty much all facets of my life. That's my home life, my personal life. That's at my work. It's with working out. It's with hobbies. It's all over the place. So anytime that there's a competition, a challenge, something that I know I can push myself or give myself a goal for, that's just my go-to. My safe place is where that is. So I'm very much a self-starter. I jump headfirst into things. I like to get my hands dirty and just jump right in. But in addition to that, I'm also somebody who likes to take lessons from things. So if I jump right in and it just sucks, it didn't work for me, it was not something that I anticipated, then I definitely like to take lessons from that. And I'm very self-reflective. So I like to look back on that and make sure maybe the next time I won't, jump right in and do 50 weeks of something. Maybe I can try it out for 10 and see if that's maybe a more reasonable pace for me. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, let's talk about that. I know in the past you have, with the working out, that's one thing that you kind of, something that I would say that I've noticed about you is kind of that all or nothing, not necessarily nothing, but when you're in, you are in, right?
Right.
And sometimes that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And
Right.
sometimes would you say maybe it's not a wonderful thing? Let's talk a little bit about kind of that, jumping in is great. It's exciting. It's fun.
Right.
Pushing yourself is awesome. But is there a limit to that? What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. I am the first to admit that I've jumped into things, fad diets being one, maybe.
Mhm.
Workouts that maybe were too intense for me. Like I'm definitely not a bodybuilder. I need to tone and I need to keep it easy for myself. Not easy, but I need to give myself a base that's easy enough that I can push myself in. So I have done those things before, and just as easy as it is to jump into things, it's really easy for me to not do anything at all because I'm exhausted. So I've done that. I've kind of learned some of those lessons. I don't think I am an all or nothing person, but I think that there's a really happy medium in between jumping all in and being completely exhausted and absolutely doing nothing. That medium for me currently is just doing what's reasonable in my life. Is it manageable? Is it something I can tackle and accomplish with what else I've got going on? Because I am the juggling mom. So
Mhm.
I definitely think that there's a happy medium in between those two things.
Good. Yeah, because it can get to be too much when we try to go all in on things. And I've talked about this with my other, with Kathleen this week, and I'm going to talk to you about it. I think a lot of times we do feel that we have to go all in, especially when it comes to fitness, especially when it comes to health and diets and all of that, which is why fad diets are so popular because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get skinny in,
Yeah.
6 weeks, and I'm going to get all of this because I'm going to make 45 million different changes all at one time and get there. And it's like doing that, it wears you out, like, right? It wears you out. It makes you
Yeah.
exhausted. It makes you not enjoy working out anymore. Would you say, or what would you kind of say about that?
I would. I know that if I jump into something and I give it 150% and I'm just absolutely beat, that I definitely don't have the motivation to go into next week. And that's really not how you want to maintain something like that. You want something that's manageable, something that you could definitely push yourself in, but you definitely want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself in between that. You don't want to burn yourself out and then, jump to the next fad just because that's quick and easy.
Yeah. And I think we set ourselves up for failure sometimes doing that because we're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to go all in because we feel like if we don't go all in, we're not going to get it accomplished. We're not doing exactly the way the program said. We're not doing all of this. So we're not going to see results where it's like,
Right.
that's a lie, right? Like that's a lie. That is just something
Yes.
there's no quick fixes. We've got to take our time. We've got to get there. So, well, let's talk about you. What motivated you to make, changes with your health and fitness? What kind of gave you the motivation for that?
So I'm notorious for making changes when things in my life get pretty boring or they're flat. They don't have any movement. If I don't have any goals or I don't have anything that's really pushing me and challenging me, that's typically a point in my life where I like to make changes or, figure out what's the next thing that can push me and challenge me and give me what I need in life. So, most recently, that's been the COVID, unfortunately, the pandemic that's going on. So
Yeah.
I just felt like I was kind of in this rut, this continuous, stay at home, working at home, adapting to all of those changes. And then I wasn't really doing anything for me. I wasn't keeping myself healthy, I wasn't doing all the things that I would normally do when I have a normal schedule. So when I felt myself kind of get into that rut, I reached out to you personally because I'd seen you all over the place and you'd
I'm
come back
everywhere.
into my life like a force. So I reached out and I just kind of weighed my options. What are my options for getting healthy and doing, keeping myself on track and not feeling so stuck.
Yeah. Well, and I think there are so many people that are in your boat. I mean, I know there are so many people in your boat because there's so many people that have contacted me during this time. And it is one of those things. It's like COVID hits and it strikes and it just knocks your world. Like it just changes your world. And you think you get through one change and then there's another change where kids are staying home and you're trying to work. And there is so
Yeah.
many things that you have to juggle. And right now, what is so interesting about COVID is right now is the time that we need to be thinking about ourselves a little bit more, because once we give ourselves to everybody else and we're just worn out, we're just not going to be good for them. We're not going to be good for anybody.
Right.
And so it's so hard, like with COVID, because we're forced to be there more than we were before. We can't send our kids to school, some of us, right?
Right.
We can't just say, hey, I'm just going to go work out right now. We can't. There's certain things, gyms are closed. There's things that we just cannot do. And so
Yeah.
COVID really, really affected people, especially at the beginning, because it's like, what do I do? Where do I do it? So what was kind of like the tipping point for you where you were like, okay, I need to reach out because this is really sucking right now. I feel totally stuck. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, I just definitely was in a place where I felt like I didn't have any goals. I didn't have, I my goals from day to day were getting up and taking care of the kids and doing the routine and figuring out how to make life manageable for us at home and figure out, where our new offices are going to be because it was just such a complete shift. So when all of that was finally settled a little bit, I started to have some self-reflection on, now how do we keep up with what we were doing before? Because I was doing things like going for walks when I was at work and getting out and exercising a little bit and jogging some and I all of that kind of went by the wayside. So when those kind of personal goals went away, I just kind of figured, how do I incorporate that back into my life? How can I continue to keep myself healthy and make that a daily goal as well, now that everything's kind of settled down. So once everything started to kind of shake out a little bit and get to a point where I could reflect and see, what my goals and what my challenges needed to be and what I was missing in my life, then I came to the point where I knew that a big piece of what was missing was my health, um, my daily routine with prepping meals and that kind of thing was missing. So I jumped back into getting that done, and started Women on Weights as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, like getting to that place. I think it's pretty common to during COVID kind of let things go. But what happened, what is really, I want kind of everybody to know about you is that, and for them to know is that even the most driven person, right? Even the
Yeah.
most like, and that's the thing that really stands out for me. And when I'm talking to everybody, I think they feel like less than, they feel really bad because they're like, I was so driven. I'm not this person. I'm a driven person. I do things, whatever, but it can happen in an instant. You can start losing yourself, and it's not a negative thing. It's just that, and it's not like you don't know how to do it, right? And
Right.
that's the other thing. And I think that is what frustrates so many. They're like, I'm stuck, I'm here, but I used to, run marathons. Used to do weight training. I used to work out all the time, but now I'm sitting here stuck. And why am I stuck? This is silly. I know
Yeah.
what to do. I know how to do it. What the heck is going on, right? Would you
Right.
say that that's kind of, how you felt, like a little bit like, what the heck, right?
Yeah. I didn't know if I wanted, like, if it was, do I jump back into the gym? How do I incorporate that with the new policies that are in place? And I had gone a couple of times, and it wasn't really as motivating to me there, because we were in such a limited space, and I was only able to access certain things at certain times, and so I kind of fumbled with that a little bit, and when I was thinking about it, I was like, I just need to find something that kind of, it works for me. It works for the new lifestyle. Is it classes? Do I need to sign up for some kind of classes? Do I need to find a workout routine, a YouTuber or something? I just needed to find what it was that I could mesh back into my life and still keep the balance that we had with the new COVID norm.
Yeah, yeah. So even though, you're so self-driven and there's so many of these things and so many of us are,
Yeah.
something can just rock your world and it can just
Yeah.
kind of turn you to where you're just like, I don't know where to go from here. And the
Yeah.
great thing is that you know what to do, you know how to get there. So it's not going to be like a horrible experience to get back there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of having just a little bit of guidance and maybe some figuring out, some of the things to do. So what sort of things did you kind of do to get out of that, get out of being stuck and finding what worked for you?
Well, one of the biggest leaps that I took was joining your life coaching. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't think I knew what that was when I was jumping into that. Again, another opportunity for me to jump into something new that I took head on. But you gave me some tools that kind of helped me get myself out of my own way, because as I was trying to figure out what to do and how to do it and how to rearrange a schedule and that kind of thing, I was putting my own self in the way because I was tired. I was beat. I was, trying to figure out all of these new things and shift and rejuggle things and relearn things. And so I was in this kind of jumbled world and I was letting myself get in the way. As much motivation as I had or thought I had to get going and get back on the healthy track and do all those things, I also was just beat. I wanted to sit down and not do anything and hang out and just kind of, wash away some of that day to day hectic things. But with your life coaching, you gave me some tools that kind of helped me just step out of my own way. I don't have to jump right back into a 7-day routine with working out. I can do 2 or 3 days. I can walk around the block and get some exercise there. I can do the Peloton. I went out and bought a new Peloton just to give myself some options, just to mix up what I was doing. It's not what I was used to, but just kind of mix up my routine and get myself back into some kind of something that was manageable for the new life.
Well, and something too that we don't give ourselves, especially a lot of women don't give themselves, especially when you are, juggling jobs and kids and everything like that, is grace. We
Yeah.
don't ever give ourselves grace. And so COVID hits, our world gets rocked, and we still have to be super mom and do everything that we were doing before, plus deal with COVID, plus, take care of ourselves. And it's like, those are all so many things to happen at once that it's not feasible, right?
Right.
It's not feasible to have your world rocked and expect it to be exactly like it was, the week
Right.
before the world got rocked, right?
Right.
So
Right.
grace is enormous, and it's something that we don't give ourselves. And especially, I think, being so driven and being so motivated, grace is just not something you think about. Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't give myself any time between the new shift into how my life was. I didn't give myself any grace in between that time frame. It was just me jumping right back into figuring out what I needed to do and how we needed to arrange things. And I didn't give myself any chance to know that maybe I wasn't going to do things, perfectly the first time around, or the schedule wasn't going to be, what we needed. And so I just didn't give myself a chance to be able to not necessarily fail, but fumble, and I think that I learned some of that with the tools that you gave me. I learned to be okay with the fact that maybe I didn't get everything accomplished in one day, but if I got it done in the week, that was okay. That was just where we were.
Mm-hmm. And actually kind of, being proud of the little things, right? Like not
Yeah.
just, the little things that you accomplished. Did you get one more thing done today that you didn't get done yesterday?
Yeah.
Or, just being able to have that grace and that ability to say, okay, I got something done. I need to be proud of what I've got done, as opposed to focusing only on what we can't get done, because we're not superhuman, right?
Yeah.
We're just not superhuman. So
Yeah.
how would you say then fitness changed your life then? So, because I know a lot of people say fitness changed my life, but it really, really, truly can. And I want to kind of let our listeners understand that it's not just about looking better. It's not just about, fitting into your clothes, and although that does help a lot. But what do you truly think? How does fitness really change your life?
Um, it gives me what I crave in the kind of so it's kind of my schedule. It's my routine, my base, my something that I can rely on all the time. So if um for instance, everything's just kind of scattered right now. Everything's changing, and the kids, may go back to school next week, or they may be home next week. We just never kind of know.
Mhm.
Exercise kind of gives me that fall back to the norm, like a normal routine, something that I can sink my hands into and just do every single day if I wanted to. I could, if I'm having a rough day or a rough go with the kids and we're, struggling with homework or whatever the case may be, it's just kind of my fallback um, to something that's just kind of a norm, something that can help me clear my head, something that can help me feel motivated or feel accomplished. It gives me a whole lot of things in my life that I think without it, I struggle to find something to replace it with.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of my base, my home, my what makes me happy, kind of what gives me the good feels.
So what would you tell somebody right now who hasn't really started a fitness journey yet, or, wants to, but is nervous, is scared? I mean, what would you tell them, what would help them get started, and the benefits that you think that they would get from just getting started, just getting out there and doing it?
I think it really gives me, to fall back on that, just a sense of accomplishment, a
Mhm.
day to day, something, even if everything else is falling apart, you've had a rough day, you've had a rough COVID year, you've had millions of things happening on. If you, for that one day, can feel like you accomplished a thing, you accomplished something that made you feel good, you accomplished something that made you put a smile on your face. I do women on weights with you, and you make me giggle the entire time.
Yay! No.
And you let me complain and get that out of the way. But at the end of all of that, I feel awesome. I just feel like I've accomplished something that just makes me feel good, gives me that happy feeling that, I'm going to tackle the next day. I'm going to go a little bit harder this next time around. It's something that, even if you feel a little nervous and it feels a little intimidating at first, it's just something that you should welcome with open arms and do at your own pace. Something, that know that you're going to set your own boundaries, your own limits, and how you do things, and you can manage that. You can jump right in if you want and do it 100%, or you can take it day by day. And if you're having an off day and you don't want to do it, you can't. But it's going to make you feel good to have it done every single time you do it.
And what changes have you seen, physically, mentally, emotionally, every way, from, adding fitness into your routine, and maybe even especially in the last 6 months or so when things were crazy and you kind of lost a little bit of that motivation and all of that. What are some of the results you've seen in the last 6 months?
So I I didn't want to measure when I started Women on Weights
Of course you
because
didn't. Nobody does.
I just didn't want, I don't know what it is about the results, but I think I give myself these really high expectations of what I think is going to happen. And then if I see results and it doesn't match, then I start to get frustrated. I think a lot of people struggle with that. But for purposes of, I needed to have some kind of way to pat myself on the back, I went ahead and did the measurements before I did the Women on Weights class. And this last time around, I lost 5.5 inches, which
Woo, a
I
lot.
didn't expect to happen at all. And I went up a ton in my reps, which kind of surprises me because from day to day classes, I could feel myself tired. I could, by the third set of doing reps, I was exhausted, and I wasn't doing as many as I thought I had at the beginning of the assessment. But when it came back to it, I increased my reps by a lot more than I thought as well. So I've got that in my corner. I signed up for another 8 weeks, and even though it may be torture, I'm going to come back for another 8 weeks, and I'm going to push myself just a little bit harder than I did this last time around and see if I can have just as good as results.
Well, and I know a lot of people are in your position, especially when they start the Women on Weights program or just about any program. Like every time
Yeah,
I say we're doing measurements, we're doing assessments, everybody gets
yeah,
scared, everybody gets nervous, everybody gets like, I don't want to because what if there's no results or what if there's, none of this? And
Right.
the thing is that it's not about that. It's about any kind of change. And so that's why we do a
Yep.
lot of different types of change as far as we're going to do measurements. We're not going to get you on the scale because you might gain muscle and we don't want to mess around
Right.
with scales. They're crazy. But you
Right.
also might gain strength and power and endurance. And those are two things that, you can actually give yourself benefit for. It's not just, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 15 pounds and then getting to the end of the 8 weeks and not losing any weight. It's, oh my gosh, I lost 5 flipping inches off of my body. Do you know how hard it is to
Yeah.
get an inch off, right?
Yeah.
And then my assessments went up crazy. Do you know how hard it is to get stronger, especially upper body for women, right? That's a really, really difficult thing. So you
Yeah.
had something to kind of look forward to as opposed to having this goal of I have to lose all this weight and all that, right?
Right, right. It got me out of feeling like I needed to accomplish something with working out. I hate that feeling where, you have this expectation where if I eat healthy and if I do this workout 10 times a week, then I'm going to have results. And you kind of pin yourself into that need and want and have to do that. And it drives people crazy. It drives me crazy, I know for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to be able to step out of that and just kind of give myself the grace that we were talking about, let myself, let my body and my mind do what it's going to do and have fun while you're doing it. There's no reason why fitness has to be, intense or rigorous
Mhm.
or unenjoyable. It's just something you should incorporate into your life that's fun and if there's results along the way, that's just a bonus.
Well, yeah, and hopefully people learn to like think of different results, right? Am I drinking more water? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's a huge thing, and that's something that a lot of people aren't proud of themselves for. They're just like, no, that's just what you do, and it's like, no, many people are not drinking water, or am I eating enough vegetables? That's another goal that you can make that isn't just that I need to lose weight goal, or I mean, that's really it. I mean, a lot of us when we go into diets, when we go into exercise, it is I don't like my body and I want to lose weight. And
Right.
if we start kind of changing that feeling and saying, let's talk about everything that we're doing to get there, feel good about it, then the results come. They
Yeah.
do, right? I mean, you're seeing them come. You didn't
They
even
do.
realize it. You didn't even know that it was going to happen. You're
Right.
literally just going through your day by day, doing, working hard and pushing through, and then being surprised at the end and being proud of yourself, right?
Right. Right.
Yes.
I was thrilled to hear that I'd lost as many inches as I had
Yes.
because I didn't give myself, any I had unrealistic expectations before all of this and so I knew this time around I needed to have close to none. I just needed to have an open slate and just let my body do what it was going to do and it's amazing to have results from
Mhm.
all of that. Just it's
Yeah.
awesome.
And whatever your definition of results are, and sometimes that can change, right? And
Yep.
I hope that most people listening to this, hopefully their results now or their definition of results kind of changes, and it's just all of that, working towards several different goals, so many different things to
Right.
kind of get there, right? Well,
Yep.
let's talk. What's something that you would like other people to know about, like kind of stepping out of your comfort zone? You said I stepped out of my comfort zone. I did the life coaching with you. Probably, doing virtual women on weights was probably stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit too, right? What would
Yep.
you say? What would you want others to say about stepping out of your comfort zone, whether it be job, fitness, whatever?
So I think every time like I feel a little nervous about doing something or maybe I'm not sure, I maybe have reservations about doing something, I always try and think to myself, what's the worst that can happen? Like what's the worst that can happen if I know recently at a job I was asked to give a presentation in front of a bunch of management and I was nervous and I was, I wasn't sure I'd know all the answers or give them what they needed. But the worst that can happen is maybe what if I didn't have the answers? What if I didn't have what they were looking for? I could certainly say, I don't have that information, but I can certainly get it for you. That's the worst that can happen. And that kind of happened with me with the women on weights and joining that and doing the life coaching. I was nervous about it and I wasn't quite sure. But stepping out of that comfort zone for me was 100% worth it. It gave me tools that I didn't know I necessarily needed that I incorporated in my life that give me, an easier time with things. I don't have any problem working in workouts, and I don't have any problem walking around the block or eating a vegetable or drinking more water, because I'm able to, step out of that comfort zone and give myself the grace I need and the motivation to keep doing that. It's always been 100% worth it for me to step out of my comfort zone and do something that maybe I'm not always accustomed to doing, but it's always given me good results.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is one of those things, like you said, think about what is the worst thing that can happen. What is the worst thing that can happen if you get out of your comfort zone and start working out or start, changing the way that you're eating or start doing all these things? What is the absolute worst thing that can happen if you're nervous, if you're scared? The great news is that probably almost everybody's nervous and scared when they start.
Yeah.
And then after, we always know that, like afterwards, it's like, what was I so nervous about? Why
Right.
was I so scared? Nobody's going to bite my head off. Nobody's going to, make me look bad. And I think in the health and fitness industry, it's something that I love so much is that everybody is so supportive that like the clients that I deal with, the relationships that the women have together in these programs is because you guys are all reaching for you guys are reaching for the same goals. You guys want to be there for each other. So there's literally nothing to be scared of because they want to support you and you need to be supported. And so it's just such a great environment to be in. So, well, awesome. Well, let's just talk about a little bit about the lessons that you learned along the way. Was there any lessons, even starting from when you first, started working out to now, what are some lessons that you would have for some people that, may not have had fitness as their, in their life forever?
I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is you have to be able to adapt to where you are in life. So where I was when I met you 8 years ago, and could do banded 4 or 5 or 6 pull-ups and have all these muscles. Where I was then is not necessarily where I am in my life now. I have more children. I have a busier life. I have just a different lifestyle that I'm living altogether. I'm in a new area. So I think you just have to learn to adjust as you go, and kind of give yourself the ability to be flexible. So even if you start a workout, you're doing really great, and maybe life changes, you need to move, or you lost a job, or whatever the case may be, if you need to adjust and maybe not do something for a few weeks or a few months, just know in the back of your mind that if you want that and you want to keep up with something like that, that you can always go back to that. It's never going to be something that if you decide to quit working out, or you decide to quit eating healthy, or you decide whatever it is, you can always go back to that. If you want it and you want to reincorporate that back into your life, you can always adjust your life to have some of that back in your life. And you don't necessarily have to jump all back in, or be completely gone with things. You can adjust it to really what's manageable for you.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge thing. I think sometimes we feel like failures. We feel like, okay, I didn't work out today. I didn't work out the day before. I didn't work out. So I'm a complete failure. And I just might as well just say, screw it and not work out anymore. And I didn't eat healthy yesterday or the day before. So screw it. I'm just on a downward spiral and everything sucks. And it's like, no, but like you said, you can give a little grace. I mean, when you're having COVID and it's a horrible day and your kids are, home and they're driving you crazy and you're trying to work and you're doing this and you're trying to get things done and you didn't get your workout in, who cares? You're the only, I mean, nobody cares that you didn't get that workout in. But the thing is let's try to get it the next day or the next day. Do not stress about it. Give yourself some flipping grace, right? That's one of my biggest things that I hope people get out of this is give yourself grace, because it will come back and it will be okay. And we are going to get through this. All right, girls, is there anything else that you want to share with the crew, or anything else that you want to make sure that everybody knows? Or you?
I don't think so, but like I said before, if you feel like you need to incorporate something like this into your life, just do it in a manageable way. Do it in the way that works for you, in a way that makes you feel good and that doesn't add any kind of stress. I think that's been the biggest thing for me. Instead of workouts or health or any of that being stressful for me, it's something that's fun. It's something I can do when I want, or I can not do if I'm tired, and I can adjust it to fit into my life. So I think if you're thinking about doing anything like that, or you are missing that piece in your life, that it's really easy to incorporate, and it's not intimidating like some people want you to believe.
And can become a habit, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like it starts off difficult like anything else. And that's the one thing too that I really want to emphasize. And I'm sure you're there too. You're basically saying that is that it's not, I lost my train of thought. My train of thought went, what was I saying, girl?
So it's just not something that's intimidating or something that should be stressful or
There
hard
we go. Yes. Okay.
difficult.
I'm literally talking and then my brain went away. But yes, I
Yeah,
mean, it shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be stressful. And we shouldn't feel
right.
bad if we don't get things done, and we shouldn't feel any of that. So, well, awesome, girl. Well, I really wanted you to come on here because I look up to you in so many ways with your drive and your motivation and your discipline and all of those kind of things. And I just really wanted people to see that no matter where you are, whether you have it all together all of the time, or whether you don't, it's still going to be just as difficult for anybody to get there. But the thing is that you can enjoy it, and that's what I was going to say is get into the habit of it.
Right.
And it starts off hard, just like anything else in life starts off hard, and
Right.
then all of a sudden you start enjoying it, right? And
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're kind of in that place, and that's a wonderful place to be. So it was
Yeah.
so good to talk to you, and I know so many people are going to get so much out of this. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here, girl.
Sure,
Sure,
anytime.
anytime. All right, thanks, girl.
Bye.